Okay, we should be live. Welcome back, Jenny Strom. I know you as Jenny Reese. I'll always think of you as Jenny Reese, but it's not Jenny Reese. It's Jenny Strom. Jenny Strom is what you go by, right?
Yeah, it's my maiden name. I actually never had changed it legally, so
Oh, is that
yeah.
right?
Yeah, document-wise, I've always been Strom.
Well, for those who don't know you, you are. Oh, you know what? I should have pulled up your channel before we started. Tell everyone real quick who you are, your history in Scientology, just honestly, briefly, just by way of introduction. We're not trying to rehash everything.
My mom was working for a Scientology mission when I was born, and then when I was 3, she joined the Sea organization in Los Angeles, trained to be a very high-level auditor, eventually ended up in OSA, and my dad's been a public Scientologist. He was also in the Sea Org for a bit, but now public. And then I was in the Sea Org for 17 or 18 or some odd years. But I was also raised by the Sea Org, and then I joined it, and then I left.
Okay, good. I'm trying to find your channel, and it's not coming up under your name. I forget the name of it. Atheists and
Cults and Atheists.
Cults and Atheists.
Yes.
Okay. And also for those watching, you were in charge of personnel and ethics, justice, and discipline and recruitment for Bridge Publications, which is in the world of Scientology considered an international level org. And it's, I mean, that's how I know you, was from you working at Bridge.
Yeah, it's because I was only there.
That's right. Here is Jenny's channel. Cults and Atheists. Is that what it was called from the beginning?
Well, I just took this, like, you see that first thing? It used to be up there, and I moved it down there because my ADD doesn't allow me to focus for that long. So.
Okay, cool. So when you were at Bridge Publications, you were in charge of Division 1. You were the HAS, the HCO Area Secretary, the Hubbard Communications Office Area Secretary. You were in charge of recruitment. You were in charge of ethics and justice. And that's why you wanted to have a chat tonight on the subject of Sea Org ethics and justice, Scientology ethics and justice. Why is it so harsh? What are the things that Scientology cracks down on, or particularly in the Sea Org? What do they crack down on, and why? So I jotted down a couple notes from what we were talking about earlier. I wrote how Sea Org ethics works, why people get in trouble over the dumbest things. What is it that Scientologists or Sea Org members believe that is behind this weird justice? And, you know, what gets Sea Org members sent to ethics, and why is it so severe? Where would you like to start the conversation?
Okay. Well, so I was what they call the director of INR, which is inspections and reports, which is kind of the person over the ethics section, for about a year. And then from there, I ended up becoming the person in charge of the whole division, like what you were saying with recruitment and all that. So when I was directly doing that work, I was probably not the best suited for that job, if I'm going to be totally honest. But I went from being in the production area of the organization to this department that's dealing with staff ethics and investigations and security and stuff like that. And it was so shocking to me. I just honestly couldn't believe the things that you end up getting involved in when you're in that department. So I was happy to get out of it. Even if I was over it, I was out of it. But I guess for some examples, and then I can kind of scale it back. But, you know, like one of the very first things I ended up doing was I was made to watch somebody, like a 24-hour watch. This girl had blown leave without permission. And in the course of doing that, fell in love with somebody. So when she came back, she wanted to leave her husband, who was up at INT, and go be with this other dude who was not a Scientologist. And so I'm brand new, and I get told she's a huge threat, big fat risk, like almost like the whole world is ending over this girl. I'm new. I don't understand hardly anything, but I get scared. I'm like, oh my God, maybe she's got like massive amounts of information, and and I can't mess this up. And the Office of Special Affairs is very involved in this because of where her husband was. I figured that out later. At the time, I just knew OSA was getting involved, and I was like, oh my God, this is the scariest thing that's ever happened. And so I'm literally, but also at the same time, I'm not allowed to just go off and go to sleep. So I have to be with this girl all day. And then in the night, I have to be in front of her, the door to her room, and make sure she isn't going to escape to where I don't even know, but whatever.
So you
So I
sleeping
was,
on a mattress outside her door? You're like sitting in a chair outside her door.
so at first I was I was just sitting on the floor outside her door. And after so many nights of doing this and not sleeping, I was not doing very well. So my solution became to sleep in front of the door. And because I figured she's going to not get past me if I do that. And I wasn't sure if I was being like, quote unquote, out ethics for doing that, because I was supposed to be very aware and alert in case something happened. So what I would do is I would have the people who were in security at the time, who were friends of mine, come through the night and just check on me and kind of wake me up, or, just so I could kind of check and make sure everything was okay, and then go back to sleep. And then, a couple hours later, the next guard would come up and wake me up. And anyways, it's just really bizarre, but it just turned out that she just liked this other guy. She wanted to go, and she didn't have any special information outside of what any other bridge person had, except for her, and her husband was up a gold. I mean, she was on what they call clearance lines, which is kind of like you do like auditing and stuff, like interrogations and stuff, to try and get up to this special base. And
what was her post at Bridge when she blew?
She was a sales manager. So that would be the equivalent for ASHO. That'd be the equivalent of like an auditor taking off.
Yeah. So very low level, organizationally speaking.
Yeah.
Valuable staff member, but low level staff member.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And so her husband was at Golden Era Productions?
Yeah. He was a very nice person.
How did she know this dude? Did she met this dude after she blew, or she blew because she met this dude?
No, she met up with him afterwards. Like, she took off for a vacation. I think she went home to wherever her family was. Oh, if I remember correctly, this is some dude from high school, someone she dated in high school. But we're talking like 10 or 15 years earlier. It's not like they had something going. And so she ran into him while she was out there. And then they rekindled this whatever love. Anyways, it was a whole thing. It sounded very, I don't even know, rom-com kind of thing without the comedy in there. But I was like, okay, whatever. But I was almost like, I felt electrified most of the time, because I had to report to OSA every day, and I wasn't even understanding the severity of it. And it's compounded by the fact that I'm falling asleep when I probably shouldn't be. And I'm like, now I'm not sleeping and whatever. That was my introduction into the ethics world of the Sea Org. And so
let's explain to everyone, like what at the time, what does a Sea Org member who's assigned to watch another Sea Org member in that situation, what is your understanding of the purpose of the watch? Why is this person being put under watch?
So the person won't take off again.
So it is specifically to keep them from escaping.
Yeah, escaping, or like making phone calls they shouldn't be making. They like to say like, so they don't commit any further overts of any kind. But the primary concern is them leaving again. And what is, obviously the world of Scientology is full of contradictions. And Aaron Hubbard says, if someone wants to leave, you hold the back door open. Bye. But yet they'll sit there and go through these insane hoops to try and keep people around. And so it's kind of like, if you try to kind of maybe fast track someone out, it's like, okay, they want to go, like, just like, let's get them out. It's kind of like all the executives of the organization will jump down your throat because you're, quote unquote, trying to get rid of people. But at the same time, there's this policy that says you just hold the back door open, so it's one of these things.
So would you agree that I think what we're talking about here is a perfect example of how a lot of the problems with the Scientology culture, the Sea Org culture, the abusive parts of it, a lot of the problems, in my opinion, are attributable to the fact that there's a massive scarcity of Scientologists. Not only is almost nobody getting into Scientology, but tons of people are leaving Scientology. And to be a little more clear about this, like you said, there's even a policy, L. Ron Hubbard wrote, that's like, we should not put the barrier to entry. We should have a very low barrier to entry. In other words, we accept anyone, but we also leave the back door wide open. We're not trying to keep anyone here who doesn't want to be here. And we're not trying to hold on to people that we can't help. Let everyone come in and let people leave. And in the process, we'll hold on to the good ones, or the ones who are going to stick, or the ones who want to be here. And yet you and I know it's almost impossible to get someone to join the Sea Org.
Mm-hmm.
And in that
is.
culture, nobody wants to let anybody go.
Yeah. Yeah. Very few people are they like, okay, you can go, very few people, eventually it got to the point where like people getting pregnant were the ones who got out easy. Mm-hmm. Like some of the only ones who got out easy, or if they thought you were like a plant and you'd get the sec checks, like the interrogations that are connected with that, and you'd be fast tracked out. But other than that, they will try very hard to keep you around. And when you're on those, they call them lines. So if you're on the route out lines, they're not going to make your life cushy or fun or enjoyable. It's going to be tight. But at the same time, they will try some love bombing to try and get you to stay. But at the same time, you, under no uncertain terms, know that you are like the dregs of the barrel kind of thing. And you are, destroying the world. And actually, like, the funny thing about it is what made me think about, because we talked about doing this a while back, and then what brought it back to my mind was I did a mock interview with my cousin. It's like Sea Org interview, just a part of it. But we were going through RJ-67 and Deadline Earth and stuff like that. And it reminded me that is the seriousness that the Sea Org like holds as like the reason why it's so important to be the most ethical, elite organization on this planet. So every little thing is now under a microscope and is magnified by like 1 million. So, and I forgot about that. And it is a lot of that lecture covers why, because that was the announcement about the Sea organization. It's when he announced it, and he announced it as this elite organization, the most ethical, and so you hear us talking in a lot of different lives. We make jokes about it all the time about people who like, slap the salami getting in trouble all the time for something like that, and one of the things, who cares? Like, who cares? But yet it comes up for people, and it's like the stupidest thing, but you will get a full-on ethics handling if you do something like that, because you have this overriding ridiculous purpose of saving this planet and the universe. And the purpose of the Sea Org is to get ethics in so that the Scientology technology will go into play and happen, and we can save the world. So if you do little things that are not okay, you're destroying
so how do
the
we
world.
reconcile this? We're here on this star high goal, this world saving purpose. We've got such important business to take care of. But boy, if you're spanking the monkey, you are in some deep trouble. How do they reconcile that? I got to be honest. I did not have any of this happen to me in the Sea Org. First of all, I never got off over to withholds like that. And I didn't even realize until I was out of the Sea Org that someone who's considered to have a problem with self-pleasuring is not eligible to be in security. I didn't even know that, because I stayed as far away from an auditing session as I could anytime I could help it. And I would never get off withholds like that, because it's embarrassing. And that's what I didn't like about auditing, was talking about embarrassing things. So I managed to navigate the minefield of talking about solo 2D assists the entire time I was in the Sea Org. So, but as someone who had to deal with staff ethics, how do you reconcile that the Sea Org is like, we're the most ethical beings in this sector of the Galactic Federation. We are the upper 10th of the upper 10%. But by the way, did you spank the monkey last night? Because if you did, you're in some deep shit.
So I'll tell you, here's what it is. Scientology, like the Sea Org especially, they the level of self-policing that they get you to do is intense. It really, really, truly is. Like if you, like another thing that I did with my friend Kendra was we went over pain and sex and the 2D rules. So
you have to tell them what that means.
So if you want, like Aaron Hubbard goes into like, it's a lot of garble, but if you look at it kind of like through the garble and in a nutshell,
nobody knows what you mean by nobody knows what pain and sex means.
That's what I'm telling you right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So what he's saying is that pain and sex are these created things that are not natural to man, but can be used for bad purposes to actually destroy a being and completely suck him in and ruin him and whatever else. And he says that these were tools invented by psychiatry, like way, way, way down the line, like lifetimes ago kind of thing, and that they get used. So you have that coupled with the fact that we have very stringent rules. And L. Ron Hubbard does talk about in a book called Handbook for Pre-Clears. He specifically talked about masturbation and how practically all of man does it or something, or animal does it or something. Anyways, but he talks about how it pulls.
Do it.
He says it pulls in like facsimiles, right? And it knocks a person out of present time. So people read this stuff.
Only for a few seconds, though. It's called post-nut clarity.
Oh my. Do you want to tell us more about that?
Okay, I didn't know that came from Handbook for Pre-Clears.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Okay.
So before you have that clarity, oh man.
Never make any major decisions until
while you're like pulling the pud.
Oh my God.
Boy. So anyhow, yeah. No. What was I saying? Oh, so yeah, the self-policing is intense because these people read these different references. So it's them who, it doesn't even have to get asked. Sometimes the people just bring it up because from everything they've read, they go, oh my God, this is a bad thing and I'm doing it. So then because they're bringing it up as a thing, you're supposed to address it with them and sort it out with ethics. And that's why when I told you that one guy who basically did it nonstop, I finally had to tell him to stop fucking writing up masturbating because nobody cares. Like literally nobody cares. I said, if it doesn't involve your post, I said, I don't want to fucking hear about it.
It's like, hold on. It's like the Sea Org's version of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. We don't really want to know, so can you please stop telling us?
Yeah. Well, for me, it was so stupid. Like, I just didn't see it as like an actual overt. I just felt like it was something that people were embarrassed about. And I don't want to know what you're embarrassed about. Like, for me as an ethics person, I want to know what you did that was damaging the organization, I guess, if you will. And so, but that guy was very relieved to hear that he didn't have to keep writing that up. Anyways, but a lot of people did. And part of the belief is this. So if you're doing that, they don't consider that an overt on your second dynamic. They actually consider it more of an overt on your first dynamic because you're driving yourself in. You're knocking yourself out of present time. You know, you're not hurting somebody you're in a relationship with. Anyways, wow. All right. I just had that thought of what you said again. Just got through my head. But anyways, so let me get back.
Hold on.
So what they believe in.
Kim McNeil says the solo 2D is blowing off charge. The solo 2D assist. I can feel the charge coming off.
Here comes the charge.
Here comes the charge.
Oh my God, I might cry off my makeup. Holy shit. Oh, wow. This just got demonetized for you.
No, it didn't. We're being really good at using alternative words. Oh,
Oh, yeah. Like charge. Oh, okay. So what they
I've just got all this built up charge that I feel I need to get rid of. I feel like I just need a 2D assist to get rid of all this charge. Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God. Oh, it's the best.
So, one of the things they believe is that, like, if you go out ethics on one dynamic, right? Like the ethics department is supposed to be primarily focused on the third. So, but if you do something on one dynamic that's out ethics, what they believe is that it will start to pull the other, they call it pulling the other dynamics down. And the dynamics are your urges to survival. There's supposed to be 8 of them, like concentric circles around you. You have yourself, the family unit, the group, mankind, blah, blah, blah. So if you're doing this first dynamically and releasing your charge, then it's going to start affecting your other dynamics and they're going to down. So that's the reason quote unquote, that you would address it. Anyways, so there's that. So taking nitpicky little things will end up being dealt with in ethics because it's believed that it will start pulling down the other dynamics.
What's interesting, I guess I want to add a few words that it's more considered even in like a philosophical or an intangible way. Like it's almost like if you're doing destructive things, I'm reinforcing what you're saying, but just trying to add a little bit more color to it. If you're doing things that are considered unethical on your first dynamic, which is yourself, or your second dynamic, which is your partner, it's just considered that almost in a spiritual or karmic way, you'll start doing bad things to the group. It's not even necessarily in like a logical cause and effect way. Like it's not like the guy can't stop spanking it and all of a sudden his stats are down because he's just spanking it 8 hours a day and now it's affecting the group. No, it's more like things snowball. And do you agree? Is that how you would think about it as an ethics person?
It's exactly like that. So like, let's say the guy's doing this. Here's a hypothetical kind of way you can look at it. So he's doing this all the time. So now he's not paying attention to his wife. So now his wife is mad and they're fighting. And so now that they're fighting all the time, he's coming in to work tired and upset and distracted by all the fighting he's doing with his wife all night long. So he starts messing up on the job. Now that he's messing up on the job, he's turning out what would be called an overt product, which means now what he's putting out to the public, let's say it's a promotional piece and it's got the wrong words in there. And now people getting it are getting the wrong idea, not coming to the org. So now you're hurting your mankind, and it goes on from there. Like that's the way they'll view a tiny thing and blow it up into like a big thing. And so, like they say, the first pinprick, Joe gets a black eye. In an easy to live and work with group is that the first pinprick, Joe will get a black eye. So you're going to just pounce on that shit right away. And
we don't let
at one point, they actually
fester.
started taking that literally, Aaron. I don't know if you were already gone, but they actually try to start getting people to hit each other.
They had been doing that at Flag for a while. When I was at Flag, I was surprised it didn't happen more often at PAC when I got to PAC, but they were already doing that at Flag back in the late 90s. Like even with my brother, my brother at the time, we were both on the Out-of-Work trainee program. And Dan O'Connor, you might know Dan O'Connor, right? He was a senior at Kansas City. He was also on the training program. And my brother had gotten into some trouble. And Marty Rathbun had come to Flag recently. And Marty Rathbun, because at that time he was at least introduced to us as the president of RTC. I don't know if that's really what his actual post was at the time. But anyway, he started overseeing like the training on the metering program roughly. And I remember that Dan O'Connor had sat went at the Hacienda one night, sat my brother down and basically told him, according to the knowledge reports policy, I'm going to give you a black eye now. And my brother thought he was kidding. By the way, my brother was 15 years old at this time. Dan was in his mid-20s at least.
And not even a Sea Org member.
Not even a Sea Org member. And he had nothing to do with Colin. He wasn't Colin's senior or supervisor in any way. They had nothing to do with each other. He just happened to be another out-of-org trainee. And anyway, and I found out about all this afterwards. Anyway, he started wrestling around with Colin and trying to punch him and might have hit him in the face once or whatever. And then the next morning, when Marty Rathbun found out what had happened, he came to the metering course room to congratulate Dan for correctly and successfully applying the knowledge reports policy by punching my brother in the face.
I can't believe that. Like,
yeah.
What the hell?
Yeah.
That's
so
bullshit.
I was honestly surprised at PAC when people would get into physical confrontations, how worked up some of the people in HCO would get about it. You remember Daisy? Daisy was a bridge. Little Daisy.
Yeah, Daisy Clark.
Daisy Clark. She was like a little Oompa Loompa, right?
Yeah.
She was at Bridge. She worked for you at Bridge for a while. And then she must have gotten in trouble. She ended up at ASHO. And she was like the weirdest Dur-INR. She couldn't stand it when people were, oh my God, she thought it was the end of the world if two people were fighting. She was like, oh my God, this is unheard of. This is Scientology tech is not being applied. I'm like, you're a really weird Dur-INR.
She was like, you know what she was? She was like one of these like super soft, nice humans. Like, just the littlest things would actually just drive her like into incredible levels of upset. Like she didn't handle very much of anything very well.
You could tell that she would very much rather be doing musical theater.
Yes. Yeah. 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 She even walked a little like that.
She had no business and she was like this tall.
She was tiny. She was tiny. And she was actually incredibly nice. Like
I know
super nice.
She wasn't like being a Dur-INR.
No, it's not. It was not the place for her. That's for sure.
So they started applying that knowledge reports black eye paragraph at in PAC.
Eventually, yeah. Like so, I remember one time when it was kind of just starting up a bit. I forget, one of the division heads at Bridge was being CI, like counter intention to some order. I don't even remember what it was. It was not very significant, but her junior was the one who I think reported her. And then everyone was around, I think messengers, there was a whole pile of people. And they were like, how come she doesn't have a black eye? You know, the girl, her own senior, she wrote up. And they're like, she's kind of like, I wrote a report. And they're like, it says first pinprick, Joe gets a black eye. They're like, so you can give her a black eye? And I mean, she has all this pressure on her. And I'm sitting there thinking, you better not fucking do it. You better not fucking do it. And I'm looking at her like I'm giving her the look, even though there's like 5 messengers around. And so she kind of timidly goes up and hits the girl in the face. And when we were walking away, and she goes, well, that was awkward. And I was like, I said, I'm just going to say this to you one time. I was like, don't ever lose your personal integrity, ever. I said, I would not have done it, no matter how many people told me to do it, did it. I said, especially over something like that. It was like, stupid. That's why I wasn't great in that department. And that's probably the source of a lot of fights, even when I was the HAS, because I would reject a lot of things because I think they were overboard and bullshit. And so people would be like, Jenny, you're CI. We're going to add this to your comev.
Yes. I don't know if you saw the comment. It's Joe
would
have a black eye.
That's because I'm on the wrong thing.
Black guy. Yeah. Just clarifying that.
Yeah. It's a black eye.
Everyone knows there's no black guys in Scientology. Don't be silly.
We had one.
Guillaume?
Two. No, his name was Steve Lassiter. And then also Mike Bell.
I don't know either of those two. Were they in Bridge?
Yes. And then Then Mike Bell went to CMO, and Steve Lassiter, I think eventually he routed out.
In ASHA, we only had one black guy, and it wasn't even a black American. He was literally from Kenya. It was Abdallah. Do you remember Abdallah?
Oh my God, yes.
The folder page,
Yeah,
he had like the
was he
strength
even?
of 10 humans, this guy.
I don't even think he was a Scientologist when he got recruited.
How'd they find him in Kenya?
I don't know. I didn't recruit him. Asho did.
Maybe, or maybe he's from Kenya. They found him in Santa Monica.
Oh, maybe.
Abdallah's a guy I would like to find out he's actually out of Scientology. He was a really cool dude, but literally the only black guy in all of Asho Day or Asho Foundation. Oh wait,
he ran fast.
He was lightning fast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Another cool
racist.
guy was Saki
It's just a
Guma.
fact. Oh, Saki. Oh my God. I forgot all of. How did Saki
Yo,
Guma
why?
ever get into Scientology?
Dianetics.
Was he from Chicago? I don't think I ever even had a conversation with Saki Guma, but everyone knew who he was.
Oh. So I forget where he was from exactly, because we used to be pretty good friends. He was funny. Like, you want to talk about joking and degrading? That guy can whip out some funny ass shit. Anyways,
he was the COIs, right? He was the COIs?
Yeah, for West US.
Yeah. That's another guy I'd like to hear is out of Scientology.
I heard when Mike Brown, I think in one of the Mike Brown videos about his mom, and they were talking about the other places where they have like Sea Org members who are not doing well. I heard his name was listed in one of those. I'd love to have. If he got out, I would totally help him. I'd stick him in my rental and let him live there.
You're right. That means he's dying. That was pretty much the dying house.
Yeah, or I don't know. Either way, it's a debilitating illness. If he's not dying, it's something pretty bad.
That sucks.
Yeah.
By the way, whatever happened to that girl that you were put on to watch her?
She finally got out. Through Kirsten was super involved. She was like tailor making sec check questions, trying to get her to cleaned up to stay. Her husband tried talking to her, and even at one point he gave up. He was really bummed and sad. He was like, I just don't think she's gonna stay. And then but I got in lots of trouble. Actually, it's funny, Cece helped me at CCN, the security office there. Their sec checker actually was the one who helped me because I didn't have one at the time. And they were just nice enough to help me. So we were going over there for her sec checks and everything. And that was, God, a whole nother thing. It was, what a mess. Her everything about her thing was a huge whopping mess. And I think that's largely because OSA was involved. And whenever OSA gets involved, it's like instantly goes into this other category because it's like considered to be like a super threat. Like, all of Scientology's threatened now.
This brings up another question that I want to ask you about.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something I haven't really heard publicly discussed much, but I want to get your thoughts on it. When OSA gets involved as opposed to when CMO gets involved, in your experience? Because I've been hearing some stories recently about I almost don't know what word to use other than the Scientology word. Some cycles. What word would you use other than cycles? Some situations.
Mm-hmm. Like they're actually literally called ethics situations, found ethics situations handled. So if you're in there, you're a situation.
So what about situations that are deemed even too messy for OSA and it's just handled in CMO? Did you ever experience anything like that?
Only with if whoever it was made it to like being what they call a flap on RTC lines. So if it does flap with RTC will have CMO carry out the handling. So otherwise CMO, I mean, you know how CMO is, they're involved in everything and anything all the time anyways. But if they actually take over the handling, it's because it made it to RTC.
Did that ever happen with anything you were involved with?
The only person was, and it wasn't because of like from within my org. You remember Mark Gengi Nielsen? I don't know if you've ever heard of him. So he was the CMO somewhere. He's the one who was made to lick the bathroom floor.
Oh, yes.
COB made him do something that disgusting, inhumane, gross thing. I just felt so bad for this guy. Here's a guy who was like super like hardcore CO member, really like, I mean, COCMO, I mean, he's really, you know what I mean? Whatever. And he does one little thing and he's like licking the bathroom floor. I mean, ew. Anyway, so they stuck him in Bridge because they could kind of, it was a place where it's low enough of a bus, but it's not too low where his business could end up at a continental level. Like because he was so high and he was on ASI lines and all of this, they wanted to kind of keep it from getting around too much, I guess, basically. And so even my INR was told not to handle him. I was told to do his handling. And then I respectfully declined. And I actually reached back out to CMO and I said, so many things have happened that I don't have access to the information. So I can't do an actual handling with him because I don't even know all of his situation because I'm not allowed to know it. And I am, to be totally honest, I had already seen some of what occurred in the KRs and I didn't agree with that handling of him. I thought it was disgusting. And I'd seen all the handling he had done to date. And I thought it was more than enough for the petty, ridiculous little thing he did. I don't even remember what it was, but it was insignificant, but it was just done in the environment of David Miscavige.
Oh, God
that's
forbid.
it. Yeah, if you and I had done that in our own orgs, everyone would have just like been like whatever and gone about their merry old way. Like literally, it was that level of whatever. So I didn't think I would be a good person for it. So I reached out to CMO and asked them if they would take it, and they did. And then RTC, because of ASI, the local RTC office sort of supervised it.
Wow. The knowledge about him having been forced to lick the bathroom floor by David Miscavige, that's something I've only become aware of, since leaving Scientology, since a lot of these senior executives spoke out. Is that something you actually knew about at the time when you were still in the Sea Org?
So I actually didn't know that had happened. There was some other very degrading things that he was made to, I thought were degrading things that he was made to do. And when I saw the licking the bathroom floor thing, it made sense with the redacted part of the report that I saw, because they had to black it out because it had COB. COB was the one who ordered it. So when you get vetted files, if someone comes from INT, they'll vet things out of things. So you can't see little pieces. But that incident, when someone said it, it made perfect sense. So I do believe I believe that's a true statement. And I think actually, if my memory serves, I think he almost started telling me and then shut up. Because I was like, I'm sorry, what? And he was like, never mind, I really shouldn't be talking to you. Maybe I really do need to go do this handling with someone in CMO. I said, I think that's a good idea. Because
What were some of the other degrading things he was forced to do?
It's been a while. I think I don't remember. It was over at the ASI building, and then he from the ASI building, it was like some stuff he was made to do I think at the HGB, because obviously they're close by. But it was worse. I don't remember. It was like worse than dumpster cleaning. You know what I mean? Like I did my fair share of dumpster cleaning, but I don't know. I don't know. I honestly think I just sort of blocked it out because I felt humiliated for him. When I was reading the report, I just was like, it's where you start to kind of almost like reject information. Like you almost just don't even want to know it. And I think I just remember starting to read it and starting to have that feeling like, oh my God, I just don't even think I can handle this. Like COB definitely toasted him like in front of a lot of people. And he was known as this really senior person because he had been a COCMO and was, I think, on his way to ASI or something, because he was over in that.
Are we talking about like cleaning David Miscavige's personal toilet or something? Are we talking about that kind of stuff?
No, I think like maybe a step or two up from like licking a bathroom floor type stuff. Like that was not, I mean, that was, I would say it's the worst of it because I mean, how many diseases are you can get from a bathroom floor? Probably a lot. But I mean, there's poop particles that fly around. That's disgusting. Like, oh, but he was made to do, I feel like shoveling shit somewhere was one of the things. So I don't know if that was at Int. Because I think they had that dried out irrigation pond that was full of poop. And I think there was something about that in there. I just don't remember everything, but he was a pretty broken soul when he arrived with Bridge. And he had done like, I would say well over 100 hours of amends already by the time he arrived with us. And that was apparently like not even scratching the surface of what was going to need to be done.
Wow.
It was petty. I don't remember what it is. He said a comment that COB didn't like. That's what I remember. I wish I could remember the fucking sentence because he got RB'd on it. For sure. I do remember that. He got RB'd. And then, yeah, busted and everything else.
We might have explained it in previous videos, but let's tell everyone what RB'd means.
Oh, yeah. Roll back. So that's on the e-meter, the Scientology's device that I don't know what it registers, thoughts maybe sometimes. Anyway, so they stick you on there and they take what they call an enemy line. So it's some kind of like evil statement that they try to find out from you who was the original person who said it. And you take the next person until you find the source of this statement. And this statement is supposed to be destructive, like something that's going to ruin like Scientology or whatever. And then whoever's at the end of it, the instigator, the originator, is supposed to either be an SP or severely PTS to an SP.
So I always thought that RBs was done just on enemy lines. So for example, if I had said David Miscavige doesn't work as hard as a regular Sea Org member, that's something that would definitely get RB'd, right?
Oh, 100%. Hands down.
Right.
Because see, and then the reason why I go, it's thought to be like it's a destructive statement. And it's supposed to be like destructive to what we're doing. The thing about that is if you're trying to undermine the leader, then you're actually attacking the whole organization. That's the way it just gets viewed, you know? So if you said like, L. Ron Hubbard pulled the shit out of his ass, you're going to get RB'd on that. You know what I mean? Like, so, but when I said that I wasn't as dedicated as COB, they did try to RB me, but that's not RBable. How about that? It was a true statement, yo.
I don't know why this just jumped into my mind. One of the other ways to instantly be allowed to leave the Sea Org, other than getting pregnant, is to say that you're having thoughts or fantasies of harming David Miscavige. I was auditing a young guy, where he worked for Pack-Based Crew, and he was literally just having dreams, like actually dreams in his sleep of hurting David Miscavige. And he got it off as a withhold in session. Like he didn't even say, I want to hurt David Miscavige. He was like, I just keep having these dreams of hurting David Miscavige. And they're like, pack his fucking bags, get him out of here right now. I was like, is that easy? Yeah. Wait, that's all you got to do? That's the magic. Those are the magic words. You get a golden ticket out of here. The other thing is to say you're having thoughts of self-harm, right? That'll usually get you the quick route out.
Depending on who you are. So they'll either quote unquote invest in you. Like let's say you're a high producer, somebody valuable to them, big money maker, something like that. And you come up with that. They're going to try and clean you up and then audit you and do false purpose rundown, which is to get rid of evil purposes and get you on the great track. They're going to try and fix you to make it so that you are still qualified to stay. But if you're like taking care of files or something, they're going to be like, get that guy out quick, clean him up and bye. You know, if you say, oh, I think I was L. Ron Hubbard in the last lifetime, bye. You know, anything that suggests that you might be a plant or you might be what they would call a list one rock slammer. So this means you have evil purposes on the subject of Scientology, L. Ron Hubbard, David Miscavige, any of the key important things. If they suspect that you're one of these people who got these evil feelings and whatever, they're also going to try and get you through whatever and get out. And OSA will be very involved in things like that. Very, very much. Yeah.
Hey, did you ever have any experience with someone who claimed to have been in touch or ever having been seen or visited by an alien in their files?
So I didn't do a lot on that would be more, I think, on the technical side. So like somebody who is in the CTO would probably have better knowledge of that. That's not usually an ethics thing. That's usually like a case thing.
Isn't it usually in the personnel file somewhere? Dude thinks he would talk to an alien.
It depends. Was it this lifetime?
Life history?
Like if it was this lifetime, lifetime. It would probably be considered like this person might be a little bit crazy. And then
we have to talk about this. We have to talk about this.
Okay.
Why is it that a group that believes in aliens thinks, and that they believe aliens are here, they believe the government talks to aliens, they believe that the aliens are our prisoners? L. Ron Hubbard on the Apollo would point out UFOs to people and say they're not our friends. Why do they think you're crazy in Scientology if you've had any contact with an alien?
Because Scientology is full of contradictions. That is it. Like L. Ron Hubbard will say one thing, but then he'll say something else.
All I ever wanted was to be abducted by an alien, and it never happened.
Did you want an alien to release charge from you?
Maybe. It's the weirdest thing. If you say you're having telepathic communications with L. Ron Hubbard, which, by the way, is something L. Ron Hubbard is supposed to be able to do, and something Scientologists, if you say you're having any telepathic communication with L. Ron Hubbard, you are considered a literal unstable crazy person in Scientology. If you say you've had any communication or contact with aliens, that you are considered an unstable crazy person. And the idea of asking Scientologists to explain why that's true, I just love the idea of actually getting people who are still inside the bubble to explain why that's considered crazy in Scientology when they believe in aliens.
It's one of those things, like I don't even have a good answer for you, because it's true. They do. They believe in the aliens. They believe that that's who like transported us here, and they talk about it like it's not weird. Like there's other life forms in this universe. Like L. Ron Hubbard is literally clearing target too. So there has to be some life form there. So, but then if
they believe in aliens, but if you say an alien owes you $50, all of a sudden you're a crazy person.
Yeah, you're like, I went for a walk with like little Martian yesterday, and the people are like, you're batshit fucking crazy. But yet L. Ron Hubbard is clearing these little Martians somewhere. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's one of those things. And like when you have
Bunny Dubin is this crazy Scientologist. And she was in trouble for cheating on her husband, Dennis, who's dead now. And in her session,
oh my God, with an alien?
No, she was OT5, right? So she had to have these sessions at AOLA. Okay. And she's like, it's okay. Basically she said L. Ron Hubbard, she'd already spoken about it with Ron, and he was okay with it given the circumstances. And they're like,
oh my God,
crazy.
Oh my God. Like,
they're like, we're never letting this bitch on OT7.
It's one of those things where it's such a contradiction though, because it does sound loopy, but then at the same time, isn't that what they're auditing on those upper levels?
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? It's like, let me get this little cluster off my knee because I have arthritis there. It's like, but you can't take a walk with them. You can get them off of you, but you can't go have a conversation with them outside of the session.
You can say that Xenu is locked up in an electronic prison in the Himalayas, and that's okay. But if you say that you found him, all of a sudden you're a crazy person.
Yeah. And had a conversation.
Oh,
but yeah. Yeah, so like if you people got stuff like this, OSA for sure is going to get involved in this. At least, I mean, before they probably got so preoccupied with all of the internet stuff going on, but they would like for staff handlings, it had to be like it had if it did had something to do with int, they'd be probably very likely be involved. If like the person was showing signs of being crazy or a threat or a plant, they'll be involved in that. Stuff, yeah, things like that. I mean, like when, for example, like when a man named Barry Blue, he was married to somebody in ASI at the time. So OSA was all over that one like a rash because, you know, he was married to someone in ASI and he was whatever. And I'll be honest, security would do things to find people that would just blow my mind because so like they had a person in security, his name was Joe Riley, and his job was the staff security officer is what he's called. So he has to deal with things, I don't know, these are all just made up post titles, but anyways, if a person blows, it kind of entered his domain, but he actually figured out where exactly Barry was through, I think, like maybe his credit card or something. I don't remember, but you have to assume that there's some like lying, fraud, I don't know, weird stuff going on that he was able to get that information. And so Joe was supposed to go out and get him. And I'm the has now, so I'm not supposed to be, they don't want me involved in things like this, like CMO and stuff doesn't want me involved in stuff like that. They need me doing other things. But OSA got involved because of it being connected with ASI, and the INR ASI got onto the whole bandwagon. So I had to take my happy ass out to Vegas to go get this guy back. Wow. And yeah, so they couldn't send my INR because the guy who works for me was usually the reason people were blowing because he was such a dick and he would fight with the people. No,
Judd?
Hans Brown. Hans Brown.
Wow.
Yeah, he was like just a natural born dick. He never, I don't think he like, because the whole point of ethics is to like it, it's supposed to make the person better. Like it's supposed to like bring them to a better existence, so to speak. You're not supposed to grind them down and, hammer them until they're like ground meat. You know what I mean? You're really supposed to pull the person up. And he was really good at knocking people down. And then just even when they're down, he's going to go kick them and then kick them again. That kind of a person. So a lot, like we actually had at one point he got taken off of post because I think we had 4 or 5 people all blue just because of him. Like they got into a fight with him and like literally took off. And so, yeah, people were like, whatever. And then we gave him a chance to come back, and that was a very bad idea. But anyways, it was done. And that's my fault too. And then eventually he just came after me, and every time he'd try to comment with me, and then every time my comment would get disapproved, he'd call again. And if it would stale out, he'd call it again and again. Literally, I was under comment for I think almost 2 years. And he and my senior were both like working to get me removed. So it's just like I had, I guess, some compassion for the staff. Like, here you have these people, they're working for you day and night. We're on shit schedules. We get shit pay. We're getting in trouble like every 2 seconds. And, like they're people, they're human beings, you know what I mean? And you can have some respect for that they're still there. And if they wind up in ethics, they're still there. You know what I mean? They're still willing to look even further in on themselves than they need to stay, So like, why then do you have to beat them to a pulp? Like they're already beating themselves up if they're not getting beat up by someone from CMO. So, you know what I mean? It's kind of like, and that was a lot of my perspective. And that was a lot of why I would get in fights with Hans, Deanna, and Teresa, who was a supercargo or LC, but whatever.
One thing that's interesting to comment on here is that even there can sometimes be this idea in Scientology when we're talking about the various crazy things that have happened, where we point out that the way the people in charge are behaving isn't even in accordance with the way L. Ron Hubbard said it was supposed to be. And I think it's interesting to note that that's something that we're able to say because we have the luxury of never having known L. Ron Hubbard. Because what's interesting is that even L. Ron Hubbard didn't behave the way his writings say we were all supposed to behave. When you talk about like the heavy ethics and the heavy discipline, this is because, in my opinion, this is one of the reasons why this thing happens in Scientology. Because yes, the words say one thing, but the culture comes down from the top. And David Miscavige still is someone who spent time with L. Ron Hubbard. And L. Ron Hubbard's culture was he didn't follow his own damn rules. And when you hear, for example, Janice Gillum Grady, who was one of the first messengers, talking about just the unbelievable, heart-wrenching injustices that she experienced at the direct orders of L. Ron Hubbard, despite the fact that she was practically a daughter to him. He was practically a father to her. She had served him loyally for so many years. And when you hear like the horrendously harsh treatment and punishments and penalties for tiny, tiny things, it would be easy to go, if you didn't know it was L. Ron Hubbard who done those things, it would be easy to go, oh, it was so off policy. It wasn't in accordance with the purpose of ethics. And I'm just commenting on the fact that you sort of have this contradiction in cults and high control groups where the leader tries to control everyone by saying this is how you're supposed to behave, but even he doesn't behave that way. And I think a lot of Scientologists have no idea that this is the case. They and they sort of cherry pick the best writings of L. Ron Hubbard, because you could cherry pick a lot of what he wrote about ethics and survival and totally get into that Scientologist frame of mind that ethics is just about survival and the greatest good and flourishing and prospering and all that kind of stuff. And you go, but if that's how Scientologists think about ethics, then why is ethics so fucked up in the Sea Org, where everything is supposed to be the most standard, the most pure? And yet that's where it's the most fucked up. And that's where you realize that's because L. Ron Hubbard didn't follow his own policies. It's all this, it's this just giant control mechanism.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. And you know, like obviously we didn't work for L. Ron Hubbard, but you say Janice has stories, but we did work when COB is there. And COB certainly would never endure the penalties and punishments and treatment that we went under. He would never, ever tolerate it, not for a second, if it was being run on himself. Like, I mean, because especially towards the end, like when we built the manufacturing thing and then we released the basics, when that basics things, when that hit Scientology, the Sea Org and Scientology, I mean, when I say like everything just went like ape shit nuts, it absolutely did. And I mean, you'd be doing like what they would like to call rocks and shoals, which is basically grueling punishments. And you'd be doing those at least once a day, if not more than once a day. And you would do it for your particular job, whatever your particular job was. Like if those statistics weren't like up or you weren't making your targets or goals or whatever for that, you'd get punished. Then you had a basics sales quota on top of that. You didn't make that, you were also going to get punished for that. Then if you had like an additional assignment of some kind that you were supposed to do and that didn't get done, you get punishment for that. And none of these cancel out the other. So you could be doing up to 3 a day, depending on what was going on.
This phrase, rocks and shoals, I forgot about this phrase. I even forget the flag order that it comes from. Why is that the phrase and what does it mean?
I don't remember the derivation.
Isn't it like if a ship hits the rocks and the shoals, then like there's hell to pay or something like this? I have to look up a shoal. Define shoal. Isn't a shoal like a shallow section of water or something? A large number of fish swimming together. Yeah, that can't be what it is.
No, that's not the one.
Let me just Google rocks and shoals because I feel like LRH probably stole that from something, right?
I would guess it's a sea term of some kind.
Deep Space Nine, rocks and shoals. Rocks and shoals meaning.
Do that.
Rocks and shoals is an informal reference to the Articles for the Government of the United States Navy, which was replaced in 1951 by the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Oh, it Rocks and Shoals is an informal reference to the Articles for the Government of the United States Navy. Oh, I'm sorry. The nickname derives from a reference to Rocks and Shoals in Article 4, Section 10 of the document. Quote, the punishment of death or other such punishment as a court-martial a judge may be inflicted on any person in the naval service who intentionally or willfully suffers any vessel of the Navy to be stranded or run upon rocks or shoals, or improperly hazarded or maliciously or willfully injures any vessel of the Navy or any part of her tackle, armament, or equipment whereby the safety of the vessel is hazarded or the lives of the crew exposed to danger. Okay, so it basically means the death
So if you
penalty
damage
or
a ship, you
something
damage the material, you've threatened it to run ashore, etc. Yeah, you're gonna get it too gruesome. That's another word they use, too gruesomes.
Too gruesome and a head on a pike. Dylan says it was a justice manual. Oh, here we go. Lee Biggs, Rocks and Shoals refers to what the old Navy court-martial manual nickname. Okay, I'm not totally following, but I think we get the idea. Okay, so it was basically severe punishment. I mean, that's what it means, right? Severe punishment.
Yeah, as severe as they can make it, though. You know, like for example, like you know, like one time we had to clean, like not just scrub dumpsters because we've all done that. So this time they want us to scrub the inside of the trash compactor, and big surprise, 3 of us got scabies and had to get isolated.
Scabies?
And yeah, it's gross. It's like, it looks like a rash on your skin, and you have to put this special cream like all over you. And
okay, are you ready for this?
Yeah, it's disgusting.
It says a contagious, intensely itchy skin condition caused by a tiny burrowing mite. Scabies is contagious and spreads quickly through close physical contact in a family, school, or nursing home. The most common symptoms of scabies is intense itching in the area where the mites burrow. Scabies can be treated by killing the mites and their eggs with medication that's applied from the neck down and left on for 8 hours. The mites can also be killed using oral medications. Did you guys get neck down cream treatments or anything?
Yeah, so it was a cream that we had put all over us, and we got isolated they made us isolate for 24 hours, which I didn't mind because I actually got to sleep. But it was gross. It was very, very itchy, and it's disgusting. The thought of like a bug, burrowing you is like really nasty, like very traumatizing mentally, I think. But like the worst. I'll tell you the worst. I was talking to Mike about this the other day. The worst thing is being made to go into Rat's Alley. So, did you ever get sent there?
No, I did not know. So, just tell everyone what that is.
It's this about 4 foot little section underneath the main galley where all the food and stuff is cooked for years and years and years. But there's holes and drains and stuff that go down into this little alley. And so it's full of like grime and grease, like gunked for years. And it's got big old rats and those big, huge old flying palmetto bugs in there. And oh my God, it is so gross. And it's pitch black. So you can hear things moving and you can feel the crunch underneath you. And I think I got about like 3 or 4 feet in there, some crunches, something landed on me. I screamed bloody murder, got back out, and I said I would rather like get kicked out of the SEERG than to ever go back in there ever again. But it's like that's the worst. If you get sent there, like, yeah, that was hands down one of the most horriblest things ever. And and they come up with different things. So like the dumpsters, there's that. Like one time, all of the HC, like, okay, so you have Division 1 and Division 5, and they're both responsible for like staff training and enhancement and stuff like that. And so it was decided that because the staff weren't like getting through the basics, never mind the fact that no one there is sleeping, because if you don't make your sales quotas, you're in a call room calling Australia in the middle of the night. Believe me, you're never sleeping. And so of course the course statistics suck and the staff aren't getting through. And HCO and Qual Division 1 and 5, are off the rails. Like we must be like off our rockers to not be able, like we must have so much ad ethics that we cannot get tech in with the staff, was the way it was viewed. So they put us on this program, and it was like supposed to be like this quasi RPF program. They called it the HCO Qual program, but they tried to make us wear like RPF colors, the gray and black. And so they gave us all these gray t-shirts. They're like, we want you to wear black pants. And we got a bit smart with the security guards who were running it. And we said, if you're going to sign us to the RPF, give us the goldenrod. Otherwise, no. And so we wore our regular jeans, but so we were made to, we do our normal post, and then we'd have to muster at like 6 or something. They make us do some exercises, and then we're running around. We're doing like mess work. Like they find like nasty shit for us to do. And then we do some like fast track type training where they're trying to teach us how to use the e-meter, trying to teach us how to do ethics interviews without doing official courses. They're just like the kind of programs, the kind of training that the Rehabilitation Project Force did. It's the read it, drill it, do it. So it's a shortened version to get us doing this stuff. And then we would do like this mess work stuff until late at night. Like, you know, for example, like we were in the galley. The galleys after this was pretty sanitary, but until then it was not. It was gross, and it's a tiled floor. So we actually had little toothbrushes, and we were scrubbing in between all the tiles on the floor and around all the pieces of metal and cookware and everything that had years of built up grease and whatever. And we couldn't go to bed until every single square inch of that thing was a quote unquote pass. Like, so they told us so clean that you would eat off of it. And if you wouldn't sit there and tell the guard that you would eat a meal right off it right then, it didn't pass, and you'd go back to, you know, getting it even cleaner. And then I made some crack about it because it was just grueling work, and I thought it'd be funny to lighten the mood. So that joke got me another hour after everyone else left in Potland. So anyways, or we scrubbed rust off of metal for hours and hours and hours, like just stuff like that. And then, so it was supposed to be this sort of like halfway RPF program. So we were getting run through the ringer on that. We still had to do sales quotas, and we still had to do our normal job. But the end result of this was supposed to make it so that we could then get the rest of the staff to get like through the basics and on source, they call it, and whatever. But like they would started doing that's when they started doing the, no, it was when it came back in with the overboarding thing. Like,
right.
Yeah, so they started that with the Golden Age of Tech. It kind of went out, and then with the basics, it came back in. So that's when you get hosed down in front of anyone, or they dump garbage bins full of water on you, or 5-gallon buckets, or whatever they have in front of everyone, and it's demoralizing.
Good old morale boosting team building activities.
Yeah. I was like super gung-ho to go get that sales quota met after that one. That was actually one of the things that absolutely broke me.
Yeah, I think we talked about that last time. I remember it was crazy.
Probably.
So how about we wrap this
doing
chat
it to
up?
Kids.
That's what we spoke about. I remember we spoke about that last time. That was wild. Well, this has been fun. Let's how about we wrap this one up here, and we can think of what we want our next chat to be about, or we can talk about other aspects of this. But I think this was good. I'm going to chop this up and publish little segments, because I think there's certain parts of this that are really worth having published as standalone videos too.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me see real quick though. Guys, forgive me. I didn't have Barb in the back office starring anything for me, so I'm not going to go through all the live chat looking for comments right now. However, I do want to remind everyone, if you are not yet subscribed, I'm trying to zoom in. It's not working. It's not working. All right, you guys can see it. If you're not yet subscribed to Jenny's channel, you can find it. It is Cults and Atheists. Have you been doing any live streams lately?
I have been having a bit of a week or so, so I haven't done a live for a tiny little bit, but I did put up another one. I'm going to go live. It's tomorrow, Saturday. Yeah, so I'm going live tomorrow, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about the cadet org. My first time on the EPF, and then getting kicked out of the cadet org.
You and Mike Brown going to do any lives together?
Yeah, we're just trying
That's
to
who you
get our
meant earlier,
schedule
right?
together. Huh?
When you said earlier that you were chatting with Mike about Ratel, you meant Mike Brown, right?
Yeah, Mike Brown. Yeah. So me, Mike, Sterling, and a surprise other person are gonna do a chat about the cadet org, our time there together. Maybe we should have you
Nice.
there live react to our insanity.
That would be fun. I would do it. Let me know.
Okay. Yeah,
All
it
right,
was
cool
a
guys. Thanks for hanging out with us this evening. Thanks as always to everyone who watches until the very end. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, oh, dancing for my love, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right here. Bye.